Get excited about this.
I'm hoping to do it like this. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
You know? And then, if you can't, let me know, and we'll go electronic. So, all right. Good crowd. Thanks for coming out. You know, I do this every year, and it's like I always have a big crowd packed here. And, you know, I'm drawing a crowd. They go, no, they're waiting to get on the bus. Because the buses would be out here. And then here we go, man. A big crowd shows up. And thank you for coming. Welcome to Boyne City. I'm glad to have you here. It's great to share morale, our Michigan morale, our Great Lakes morale, from people from all over the place and coming in pick. We welcome you. Boyne City loves you for coming. Yeah, I'm here. I'm going to do this in 3 quick parts. I'm going to tell you why I'm standing here, how I ended up here, tell you, we'll go morale picking in the woods, and then we'll take a few questions, okay? It's bumpy. Just hold on, you know. I got to explain a couple things to you. 11th grade speech class, Mrs. Churchill. Use it? You can hear it now. All right, 11th grade. Anyway, she said, don't do it. Don't ever do public speaking. You've got a stutter, a lisp, you don't finish your sentences and they don't make sense when you do. And she said, I'm searching my heart. And it took a while to find a D. And it's actually, you're only a junior and I don't want you back here next year or I'd fail you. So she said literally, never speak in front of a group. So this is number 38 of the morale seminars this year. No. The point is, you're going to get that D presentation. So hold on, and we'll just get through it, and I'll jump back. I'll forget, but we're gonna get there. So I'm picking morels because I grew up in a morel culture. My grandfathers came here in the 1890s to cut the pine loggers, and in those days we had dock wallopers loading the boats. There were no loaders, you know, front end loaders. They had a lot of mill workers and a lot of loggers. And there were thousands, 12, 13,000 people here. Right now there's just over 3,000. So it was huge. It was mostly men. And there were a couple floating bordellos that used to go around the tip of the mitt, and they'd pull into these logging towns and drop anchor for 2 or 3 days. My grandfather Homer used to row out, and he married one of them. And he called them crib girls. Why I'm telling you this? It's like, where is this going? I don't like where it's going. Her mother was an Ojibwe Indian, and her dad was a French fur trapper. And this marriage took place in the 1890s. Well, the fur trapper from France, he picked morels in France. So when he got to northern Michigan and the Great Lakes, he was way into it. He loved these morels. A side note's come down through the family that he loved the Michigan morels. The Great Lakes, he said the morels were far superior from what he picked in France. So there you go, France. You know. So I was going to show you a picture. This is new for me this year. I have visual aids. This is one of the floating bordellos. This is the bordello, the reason I'm here today, giving this. And it was anchored right out here, about 300 or 400 feet from us. Quick row. And while I'm at it, yeah, these are new. I've never had these, but I like them. And you can come up later and see. You come up later and see them if you like. What's going on here? You see the car? There's no windows, wooden spokes. This is at least 100 years old. And then, where my finger is the Boyne Theater. So this morale thing's been going on up here for over 100 years. My family's been into it. My mother and dad were obsessed with it. And we grew up, 4 sisters and a brother. And we grew up picking morels every year. And I'm glad to look out and see at least some young people here. You know? And that's cool. I love it that you want to go do it, but the kids, take the kids to the woods. So I grew up in this culture. We picked all the time. Mother made a picnic. We'd go out in the morning and pick, have a picnic in the woods, and then pick all afternoon and come home as a family, prepare them together. And every morel season we did it like crazy. We picked morels. My mother was probably five months pregnant with me the first time I went morel picking. I'm 70, and I just grew up in this thing. So being around my family and so forth, I learned a lot about it, and I'd go out morel picking, and people go, wow, man, you should join this thing. And then I found out there was money involved, and I go, yeah, I will. So I won 5 years in a row, and then this all was like, hey, maybe I should be doing this. These wonderful people asked me. And I'm going to stop for 1 second and talk about Pam Chipman and Kim Brown. Hey. Those two have been spearheading this thing for, should I tell them?
Yeah, 32 years.
32 years. And yes. You know, like I said, I'll be jumping around. We just did acknowledgements. Those are usually in the front. You know? So I grew up in this culture, and I got talked into joining this contest. Won 5 years in a row, and I ended up doing this. And I got a lot of ink from it. Sports Illustrated, New York Times, and USA Today, and I don't know, a lot of journalists with it, not a lot to write about. But I got to do this, man. People started knowing me, and I've done, I don't know if I said it, I did 39. This is number 37, 38. This is 38. One more, you guys. But I've done them all in the last 5 or 6 weeks. It's been crazy, all over the state of Michigan. I love it. I love talking to you guys. So, that brings me to here. You know? That's how I got here today. So let's go morel picking. It's warm in here, isn't it? It's almost too warm for morel picking. I like to go into the woods, and I love valleys. So this will be our valley. The ridges run this way and this way. And we pull up to this thing, we jump out of the truck, we're dressed light. Today this is about it today, it'd probably be a t-shirt. But when I do pick normally, I love to keep my arms and my legs fully covered. You know, I don't know if you've ever been picking with 2 girls in flip-flops and shorts, but it'll slow you down, you know. But you want to wear that for protection. I dress like this basically with a t-shirt and a good set of shoes. I take a couple power bars, I take water, I let people know where I'm going. Cell phones today, just take your cell phone. They'll find you. CIA will get you in 9 seconds, you know? So take that, let people know where you're going. Go in the morning, especially if you're new. How many are new to this? Yeah. So, a good tip. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of little tips. I can't give you one. Hey, sit down, I got a tip. All right, go get them. But I got all these little tiny things that I do. And they're not necessarily carved into stone, man. I know some great morel pickers that do things a little different, and I'm cool with that. I'm there to learn. But when I take all these little tips and put them together, it's a mass thing for me. This makes me better. So I'm going to tell you a whole bunch of little tips. Some of them will sound crazy and stupid. Some of them are stupid. But if you do them, they'll help. All right? So I'm dressed. I'm going in the woods. Let's get in the woods. So, see, I'm used to working without a microphone. I go over there and I go, wow, I can't hear him anymore. Let's make this a couple ridges. This one here and that one over there, a couple big ridges, they run half a mile in. They're all over the place up here. And you step into that, you step out of that truck and you walk over there. As I leave my truck, here's another thing. Always be thinking about it. That's the key to not getting lost. You know? I go out, people, we'll take a group of people out, we get out in the woods, we're out there, and this is my dad always did. Hey, where's the car? You know, when we were kids, it was like, by the time you were 10, you were going, yeah, everybody in the family. Because he made us think about it. Every half hour, 45 minutes, where's the car, where's the car? So we're thinking about it. Most people that get lost don't think about it so much. They're, oh, look at the trilliums, man. This is so cool in here. I'm gonna take some pictures. And they just wander in. So when I'm in and I go in, I get out of that truck, I'm conscious of it. If I walk 100 yards and I start to veer to the left and I go 150 or 200 yards, then I take a sharp right, it's all registering. Just keep thinking about that. And keep kind of imagining back there. And I turn around every once in a while to look back. Because what I see here is a whole bunch of people. You know? When I turn around, I'm alone. But, so when you turn around and look, you don't know what's back there because you're heading in this direction. And you turn around and look once in a while and you'll recognize that when you're trying to find your way out. You know? It's a good, these little tricks about not getting lost. Go Morel picking in the morning, especially people who haven't been out. Because when you do get lost, you got all day to find your way home. It's true. People always laugh, but I'm serious. You know, hey, that was an excellent dinner. What do you say we head for the woods? And you're in the woods and it's the same thing. Anybody paying attention where the car is? No, but it's getting dark. So you don't want to go out late in the day, especially if you're not good in the woods, all right? Get out there in the morning, real early, 11. And I also like to go in the, you see the sunshine today? For me, that's terrible morel picking because everything becomes a shadow. I call it shadow chasing. And you think, oh, whoa, look at that. And you walk over there and it's a shadow because leaves are dry and they're sticking up and the sun is causing shadows everywhere. So I like to go out in a nice flat light. And that's one of my problems are gone, the shadow chasing. So the other time I love to go is in the rain. 2 or 3 reasons. We're in this valley. Don't worry, we're gonna start walking up and looking for morels in a minute. But we'll move this along so that you can process that as we walk through this valley. The valley of Demon. So I'm gathering myself. Hang on a second. You know, I've done like 30 some of these, and I'm kind of like, wow, did I talk about this yet? You know, I know it should be a little more organized, but that's part of the D, so hang with me here. Does anybody remember where we were? We weren't in the valley anymore. Oh, hey, thank you. Thank you. So it's raining. One of the reasons I love to go in the rain is you don't run into people very often. People hate going out in the rain. They're afraid of it, la-di-da. But I love going out there because you know that it's going to be one of those days where you can cruise around, not have to worry about running into anybody. And then it's really cool in the woods in the rain. I spent a lot of time. I used to build furniture and stuff, and I spent a lot of time in the woods harvesting. I love it in there. And when it's raining, it's a whole new atmosphere. It's cool. And I love going in there. So there's no people. I love the rain. But the main thing is all those shadows we were talking about, shadow chasing, the dry leaves, all those leaves get soaking wet and they lay down flat. Boom. And the morels. I'm over here. And I'm going to talk a lot about sight lines today, but that's, you know, you've heard about 10 of these little tips, and they're all important. The shadow chasing, the flat light, picking in the rain. So when I go, one of the things when I go, I take 2 paper bags, and then 2 white plastic bags because it rains, and I put my paper in the plastic. When we get to the question and answer part, we'll talk about onion bags, okay? I don't use them, but they're cool. We'll talk about them later. I use paper. An onion bag, the things I don't like about an onion bag are that they crunch up and your morels will actually come through all those openings. You're hitting your pants, you're hitting a tree, you're hurting your morels. You're hurting your morale, man. So the people who do it say, yeah, the spores, oh, we're going to talk about onion bags right now, apparently. The spores jump out. I didn't know where I was going, believe me. So the spores, they go, yeah, I take an onion bag and all the spores jump out and they repopulate, you know. And the guys that do it go, no, it works, because I go back every year and they're there. And I go, right. I go every year with a paper bag and I go back and they're there. Try to figure that out, you know. But my wife and I have a cabin in 1986 and we're up here in the woods and right off our back porch, this big long 40-foot porch covered. Every year we pick a lot of morels, right? Lots of them. There's been outstanding years. And we clean them in our kitchen, and I take this big cutting board with all the cuttings and the crumples. I go out on that back porch, and I clean it completely right into the woods. 1986, hundreds and hundreds of pounds, 0 morels. So this spore thing, you know, if it works for you, do it. But I prefer the paper. I'm a paper dude. All right, so I take a couple paper bags, I'm going in the woods, a couple big ridges, picking in the rain, right? The same thing kind of applies to where I go. So we're in this valley. Let's go like this. That is a ridge running a half a mile. It's 150 feet tall, and there's another one over there. And this valley, instead of 100 feet, which it probably is, it's 250 feet. We're in this beautiful big valley. And we come into it. We just left the truck. We're thinking about where the truck is all the time. And we step into the woods. And what I do is I go straight to the ridges. Because 9 out of 10 people or more will look at that and go, this is beautiful. And they take a walk on this nice flat ground and they check out these trilliums. Get the camera, man. And they're enjoying it, and that's cool. And if you're gonna do it that way, that's fantastic. Raised in madness, I go straight to the ridges. When I was a kid, it was 25 cents for first morel, 25 cents for biggest, 25 cents for the most. And if you got all three, it was a trifecta, and the old man gave you $1. I'm 70, man. It doesn't sound like a lot, but hot fudge, medium hot fudge, 20 cents. You know, so that $1, we were really competitive as kids. And I grew up in that madness of, I'm coming in here, yep, let's take a nice leisurely walk. No, I'm going up the ridge. A couple different reasons. In the ridges, this ridge runs a half a mile. There will be ravines coming down and spilling into this valley floor from both sides. Ridges are running like that, the ravines are like this. And those ravines come down. And when the snow melts and the rain comes, all that water comes down into that ravine. That ravine is primed for water more than the side hills, right? Morels are all water, they're like watermelon. Back to the paper bags. You take a bunch of morels and put them in a plastic bag or a metal bag, put them in a metal bag. A mental bag. So you put them in the refrigerator. After 2 or 3 days, they get heavy and wet and soggy and they start to deteriorate. The reason is the water has nowhere to go, right? The paper bag, I put those in the refrigerator and it wicks the water away. Tomorrow morning, fresh paper bag. The next morning, fresh paper bag. Every time the old one will be a little bit damp. But the morels won't get wet, soggy, and heavy and deteriorate. They just start to dry out very naturally and very slow. So you got somebody coming in 5 or 6 days, you found some morels today, you want to keep them. Every day, change the paper bag. Don't use metal and don't use plastic. No, when I took that little side track, I wonder where I was. Where?
It was raining in the ravine.
In the ravine.
Oh, thank you. Don't go anywhere. Okay? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So, the ridges run this way and those ravines come down. They're gathering all the water. So I go up those ravines. I head right for them. And I go right in the low spot and I'll check both sides of the ravine and I go up. And I'm going up. That's another important part of morel picking in life. When I'm picking morels here on this floor deck level, my sight line is like this, right? When I'm going up this ridge, that whole forest floor tips right up in front of my face like that. So when I'm climbing up these, I get to move around. You're not going to get the dancing tonight because I have to stay right here. But I go up those ravines and I have a different sight angle. Because when you're looking down in the spring, like right now, the ramps, the trilliums, everything's growing, it's popping up, everything's coming to life. So you have to look beyond that when you're in this search. If you look up on the side of the ravine, straight out, you're looking underneath a lot of that stuff. And you're not looking at the top of the Morel, you're looking at the side of the Morel and you can see the stem. So you scan that hillside and you can see them better. So I get to the top of that ravine and that great big ridge and I walk down 200 feet to the next ravine and I come down. And now my sight line is way down there, right? And I'm looking down there, but what I do is I go about 10 steps and I turn around and look back up at the hillside. Oh my God, there's 3 right there. I went right by and one over here and 2. I didn't see them when they were way down there. But I turn around and look, and then I'll go down a little farther, turn around and look. That's the dance. I'm sorry. So that sightline stuff is important. Keep it in mind. Now the other thing is, I don't want to go up and down those ravines. So this tent, which is 100 feet, actually this forest floor is 250, 300, 350 feet wide, bottom of this valley. If you walk down the center of it, you'll have less chance than you will of walking right along the edge where those ravines start, because all that moisture coming down spills out. It doesn't make it over here 150 feet, but it comes out along that ridge line. So if you don't want to walk up and you're forced to stay in the valley, then go along those ridges, okay? Now we're still in the woods, right? So I'm going up and down those ravines. I'm looking. Now let's go to the seasons. Right now, today, black morels are out. Anybody found any whites yet?
Yes.
All right, there goes my whole summer. So the blacks and the whites are out right now. And they came together basically, didn't they? Yeah. See, usually we have a season. And somewhere between April 1st and June 1st, there'll be this 4 or 5 weeks of morel. You know, it might start late, might start early and end early, but it's right in here, April 1st to June 1st. This year we're pushed way up into May, and they came together, the blacks and the whites, basically. I know they were finding blacks probably a week ago sporadically, but now they're both out. But it's called the black season, it's over here. These seasons are gonna run that way. Boy, I keep wanting to dance. So we're over here and the black season starts, and the tree we're gonna look for is the poplar tree or the poplar tree. I'm gonna start talking faster because I'm 70 years of morel picking here, and at this pace, we're all gonna die, you know? So I'm gonna rock this thing a little bit. It's not gummies kicking in, nothing. I'm just gonna talk fast to get this up, all right? So we're over here in the black season, and the tree we want is the big poplar tree or poplar tree. The bigger the better. The bark on the mature ones, the bark gets real wide. When they're little, this is an 8 or 10 years. They grow like weeds. You don't want that. Whatever's falling in the ground for 8 or 10 years from that tree, I'd rather have that tree that's 80 to 100 years and it's been falling in the ground for 80 and 100 years. Because whatever nutrients are going in there and making it nice for morels, you got a tree dropping it here for 80 to 100 years. So you want those big poplar trees. When they get really big, the bark gets wide, it's real dark, you can stick your fingers in a little bit. Easy to do, Google it and learn the poplar tree. And that's the best tree for the blacks. And I'm also gonna say this before I go to the next. What I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell you these trees. I'm going to tell you, start early in the year on southern exposed ridges because they warm up faster. We're past that now. Pick on any ridge. But I'm going to tell you about these trees and so forth and so forth. It just makes me a better morel picker. It doesn't mean I can forget about all three of these trees and go somewhere completely odd and find morels, because you can. I found them on the beach at Whiting's Park. Throwing the ball, dogs getting in and out of the water, right in this white, sandy, beautiful beach. I don't know if you've ever been out there, but morels, big white ones. It's like, what are you doing, man? You're ruining my seminar, because they're not supposed to be there. And I'm telling you to go to these poplar trees, right? I also found them one time cutting through this big red pine forest plantation. After the war, they planted them. They're big now. And I'm out in the woods, and I got to cut through to get back to the truck, and I come by this 40 or 50 acres. Everything is dead. All the needles are acidic. They're so thick, it's like walking on a mattress. And I'm coming through there, and I'm noticing, God, this is like a Stephen King novel, because I just walked out of the maple, and the ironwood, and the beech, and the ash, and it was beautiful. The whole ground floor is coming to life, and flowers, and everything's just blooming up. And I go out in the rain, and you can kind of see them drinking. They're like, oh, we love this. And you got all that, wasn't I talking about these guys in the sand? Yeah. Oh, I went through a pine. Yeah. I told you it'd be bumpy, right? This is part of that. So, there they are, a bunch of morels. A bunch, black, beautiful black ones. They shouldn't have been there. It's not like I will ever in my life go, hey, there's a red pine plantation, let's go morel picking. I'll never go back in. But morels are odd. They'll grow in these different places where you don't expect them. But what I'm telling you about, the trees, that's what works best for me. I'm not going to the beach. I'm not going to the pines. I'm going to these big poplar trees. So the black season usually has its own season, a week to 10 days, maybe 2 weeks if things are cool and everything's happening slow. It'll be a long black season. And we get over here and you go out picking morels like today. This is today's tip. All right. When we get to here, the blacks are just kind of coming to the end. All of a sudden you go out and you put black ones in your bag and you put white ones. And I call it the crossover season. And for me, and it's a short season. Blacks are out a week and a half. They're starting to die off. Here come the whites, and the black ones are gone. The cross season's over, and we're into the white season. But right there in the middle, in that crossover, apple trees, apple orchards. That's when I always go to my apple orchards. Early in the season, no luck. Late in the season, a little bit of luck. During the crossover, blacks and whites are both out. I go to the apple orchards, and they're everywhere. They're really fun. They're easy to pick. We're in this big valley with these 175-foot ridges, and don't worry, we're going to get lost and all that. An apple orchard, you just pull up and get out. And I'm talking old apple orchards, not this new thing where when you go to Traverse City and there's thousands of acres. I mean, you go by an old farm, the glass is falling out in the barn. No glass in the windows, the barn's falling over, and out back there's 10 or 12, or if you're lucky, 25 or 30 old apple trees that were planted 80 years ago, 100 years ago. And they're kind of dead, but somehow there's a couple leaves, and there's vines growing up the side of them. That's it. And I look for them all the time. I don't even know why I'm telling you this, because you're right in my county. Okay. So yeah, go home and look for apple trees. There's really none around here. I mean, these old orchards, they just... Shit. But that's where I go to 2 counties over, and I have a route, and it's a farm route. Because every time I drove through that area, I'd be watching for little farms. And I just build up a dozen of them in my head, right? So I go over there, there's nobody living there. I jump out of the truck, back in the truck. Like literally. You just get out, look, nope, nothing yet. Go to the next one. The next one, I have this series of apple orchards. It's right on a route, it's like touring. It's like giving 39 Morel seminars all over Michigan and the UP and into Wisconsin. You're on a tour, man. And you do not want to do one night here and the next night on the far end of the UP. So I get this route of apple orchards and I drive it. Nothing. I come back in 3 to 4 days. Nothing. 3 to 4 days. Nothing. Because they're not going to be there. I talk to people and go, I got to get the speed up again. I talk to people and they're like, didn't find any. Did you go where we were last year? And they go, yeah. You didn't find any. Yeah. How many times did you go out? Well, they weren't there. How many times did you go out there? Once. No. This Morel season, you got to go and check it. When the whites come out, you got a white patch, like today, go check it. If there's nothing there, come back in 3 days. 3 days. Oh, here they are. So you can't just go once. I hear it all the time. We went there, they weren't there this year. No, they were there, dude. You weren't, So keep checking those, going back and checking them. I'm really drifting. Let's get back in the woods, right? Oh no, we're already on trees. Popple trees, blacks, we're in the crossover, go to the apple orchards. Drive around and look for them all the time. It's simple. When you get home. I'm going to show you a picture of a lake. This is a quick story of my grandfather. I'll bring him into it. I'm sorry, Grandpa. I had a Grandpa Homer who came here. Both my grandpas came to Boyne City in the 1890s to cut the pine. They were loggers. And I was telling you we had a bunch of them here, right? So when he was like 90, 91 years old, I'm 8 or 9. And we went morale picking. My mother, Dad, my brother, and one sister, and him, 6 of us in the old Oldsmobile. And we're driving along, boy, I have to watch what I'm saying right now. We're driving along a lake. And my dad asked my mother, where do you want to go morale picking? She had a picnic, we're spending the day, and my grandpa says, pull over, pull over, pull over. And my dad's like, what's up, man? And I, pull over, Chuck. My dad pulls over, gets out, my grandpa gets out, and we're right in the edge of a lake. And 10 feet away, and he walks over and he picks up this cane. I'm using it. I got a new hip. But he picks up this cane and he points across the lake and he goes, I want to go right there. And they're like, where? Come on, get in the car. He goes, no. And he's pointing like 2.5 miles away across the lake, and he's pointing at popple trees. Because when the popple trees bud, you can come up and see this later, you probably can't see it. But there's little tiny white specks on there, those are houses. So behind these houses, there's a great big hill. And he's looking across at this, and he sees a band of popple trees growing, because when the trees bud, the ash, maple, popple, all of that, or not popple, the harder woods, when they bud dark green. When a popple tree buds, it buds real light, almost lime green. So he looks across this lake and he sees this great big hillside, and there's 2 or 3 bands, big bands of white leaves. And he goes, that's where I want to go morale picking. And we went there, we found a bunch of blacks that day, and the old logger found them from 2 miles away from an Oldsmobile. You know what I mean? And oh yeah, nice story. But it's not a story, it's a tip, man. It's happening. We're 1 day away from what I just said. It only lasts about 4 or 5 days. And then all the popple tree buds turn dark green. And you look over at that hillside, everything's green. But there's this little period where those buds come out. It might last 4 or 5 days. Where you're driving around, you look at a distant hillside, and you'll see that band of light stuff. Those are popple trees, and they're big ones. And that's where you go to get morels. Yeah. Just hopefully it's not posted and stuff. But yeah, that's what's happening here. So we went through that season. I'm helping you find popple trees still. We're in the crossover, we go to the apple trees. They grow in bunches under apple trees. Morels grow a couple different ways. Black ones spread out. You come into a patch the size of this tent and pick 150 morels, and they're all around in here. And the white ones will do that to a degree, but you'll find white ones in small groups. You can walk for an hour and a half through the woods, and you come to a little half the size of this stage or less, and there's 150 or 200 whites. They grow in groups all the time. And you pick them all, and then you walk another 2 miles back to the car and never see another morel. But right there, it's happening. And those whites will act like that. They're not spread out so much. Black ones will lead you around. You're finding morels and you just keep picking and keep picking, and you never quit picking them because they're drawing you along. That's a really good patch of mycelium. That's what goes underground. It's a root system. And when you find a morel, you're in there. When I picked morels, when I was winning these championships, I was playing basketball all winter long, 5 or 6 days a week, and I was in great shape. Hard to believe, but I was in great shape. All winter long, spring came, they had this thing, and I just outran them, most people. And I'd go booking through the woods at a fast pace. I'll show you how I walk now when I'm alone, and I'm out morel picking. I'll show you the speed. I walk and I keep my head up. I don't look down at my feet, right? And I'm walking like this. And I'm covering ground. And I'm seeing stuff. I'm walking pretty good. I just got a new hip. That felt good. So I'm gonna keep walking fast. But I'm covering all the way back to there. All the way over the side there and over this way in premium condition. Flat light, been raining, you know. When everything's right, you can get your head up and look out quite a ways and you'll spot it. Especially early in the season before all the undergrowth. I'm sorry, what? Oh, I forgot to mention I was deaf. I don't know, I think everybody's talking all the time. When you get to 70, man, you're hearing stuff. I was in a restaurant and I heard 4 different tables conversations. I was alone on this little thing I was doing. And I'm eating breakfast and I could tune each one in individually. And I could tune it out and do the next one. And I was amazed. I'm 70 and I'm thinking, what's going on, man? Could it be possible? I don't know. I thought they were speaking with me. See how far off I got tracked off there when I heard a voice. I'm talking to voices, that's what it is. So I'm moving fast through the woods, keeping my head up. I go up, pick up a lot of people and they're looking right down all the time. They're right there. And you will eventually find morels under your feet, right? I have found them down there. But I'm telling you, I'm looking up. And I've been doing it my whole life, so I don't expect you to go out and cover the eyesight stuff I do or understand it really, but it's a search. You know, the thing on, Robin? Is my wife here? All right, so my wife is like, you're watching this Oak Island thing all the time. Every Tuesday night, we've rearranged our lives around it. You know, and she calls me Rain Man. You know, 20 minutes to Wapner. We've got to find a TV. But I love this show. And now I'm watching Aztec Gold. I watch all this. And she's like ready to double up the therapy. And I figured it out. It's because it's treasure hunting. And I grew up in it. And the treasure was morels. And when you went out there, I was on a mad chase to search. So that's what we're doing. We're on a treasure hunt. And that was a Harley Davidson solo. I had to give him room, man, you know? So you're out in the woods on this treasure hunt. And that's why I'm attracted to these treasure hunting movies, man. I watch them because I grew up in it. It's a cool thing. And that's the way I look at morel picking. Going to nature on a treasure hunt in the rain, man. It's happening. So when you're out there, what do? What do treasure hunters do? They cover a lot of ground. A lot of ground. I knew a guy who used to dive for Mel Fisher. I used to play in a band with him. I run into him and I go, dude, man, you're living the dream here. Tell me about it. He goes, well, mostly we do grids. We go down a mile, we go over a mile, we come back a mile, we go over a mile, all day long with the radar on and drink beer. I'm like, well, okay. I thought it would be more exciting. But what he's doing, covering ground, he's a treasure hunter. So what are we going to do? We're going to walk fast through the woods. But when we find a morel, then everything changes. We're covering ground, man. Treasure hunt, treasure hunt. We're moving through. We see a morel, we put the brakes on. Now we're in the mycelium I was talking about a few minutes ago. That's the root system down there. And morels don't grow alone. There is a system down there, and 10 times as big as this tent, every morel in here would have the same root system, the mycelium. It's the world's largest organism, right? Organism. So they found morels in Oregon, and they DNA'd them, the same morel, and they were 40 miles apart. So that mycelium ran 40 miles. So when you come into a patch of morels, you see a couple or see a morel, you're in a mycelium patch. And what I try to do is figure out where it goes. And I slow the whole thing down. I'm not racing through the woods anymore. I just found what I'm looking for. Now I have to search it out. And I search it with angles and coming in and out, especially if I'm finding them. I might find 6 or 8 going that way, and I'll pick over there, and then I'll come in from a different angle and find 4 or 5 more. You can keep on them. A lot of people walking like that. Well, I'm covering ground and walking fast. There's a morel. Keep going. They keep going straight. They walk right out. Right? So we're going to stop in there. We're going to figure out, getting kind of advanced, but I figured out where the edges of the mycelium is. And you can walk. I mean, this might, it might be twice as long or wide as this is, right? This tent. And it's like a river. It's not right angles and stuff, but it's this bed of mycelium moving through the forest. And it'll have a lot to do, where it goes will have a lot to do where the moisture dump is. It's talking about the ravines and so forth. A lot of mycelium beds come down through ravines into the valley, and then they start wandering. But I'll go over here on this side of it, and I'll walk up and down 100 feet over, and there's nothing going on over there. I'm going up here 150 feet, and I get to this point where there's nothing. I go, okay, I think I'm there on the outer edge. Then I figure out the other edge, figure out that. I'm going to go that way, so I don't spend a lot of time over there. But then I come back in here, and I see him. I just saw Morel right there by that mic stand. It's mine now. I'm not going to look at it anymore. I don't need to. A lot of people like, oh, we found the morel! And everybody comes running and they take pictures and send them to their sister in Colorado. And, you know, it's a party at that morel. And that's cool, because I want you to enjoy yourself. But I see that morel, it's mine. I'm done with that thing. I'm looking for my next morel. My eyes are busy. And I'm going all over the place. And there's 2 over there, you know. And I see, whoa, I walked right through these. There's 3 or 4 back here, so we're going to have to go back there and check. And I just start checking around. I'll have 15 or 20 morels picked out before I even start picking. And I go, okay, I'm in a really good bed. Where's it all going to go? I'm going to pick what I saw right here, and then I'm going to find those outer edges, and I'm going to work this area. And when I go over to pick it, I still am not looking at it. It's kind of out of my peripheral. I know it's there. So I'm still looking like this. I'm still looking for other morels. And I'm going, oh, whoa, I walked right by that one. But I didn't see it when I was standing there. I had a different angle. When I got over here and looked back, there it was. So, okay, I got to get him. I know it seems, yeah, we're all looking. But these little angle tips work really well for me. And then when I pick this one on the ground, okay, I'm over by it, I can sense it right down there, and I just peek at it. Okay, I got it. When I drop down on my knee, I go right down on a knee a lot of times. And I go down on one knee, and I go from 6'3" to 3 foot. And now my whole vision line has changed. I'm seeing what I didn't see at this angle, and I'll spin it around on my knee. It's that search, it's that treasure hunt. And that's one of the biggest keys. People don't look good enough. People look and they go, I got, you know, and then you just got to intensify. Get crazy and get your eyes going, especially when you're in. And I pick all those black ones, and they're out and spread out. Then we went into the apple orchards. I've only found, in 70 years, I've seen maybe 9 or 10 fairy rings. Anybody seen a fairy ring? Yeah, they grow all the way around a tree. You know, my two little girls were there, and I go, "Hey, look, a fairy ring!" Fairy ring! They're just freaking out, man. What do you mean fairies? What do you mean? I mean fairies, a fairy ring. Who do you think's growing all these morels? And they're like, "Oh my God, you know, Mom, did you know?" Yeah, so keep them there as long as you can. It gets ugly after that. You know? It's a joke. My girls, I love them from the bottom of my heart. They're amazing young women. So, in the apple orchards, you'll find the fairy rings, you'll find them under the trees. The blacks, you'll find them out, and you look for the big mycelium bed. Now the blacks are done, we're out of the crossover. We're over here in the white season, right? It's the end of the year. The blacks are blacks, browns, whatever. Whites, goldens, clubfoots, grays, yellows. Anybody have any more names? Yeah, they have all these different names. And they'll vary a little bit, but they're all the whites, right? The grays are mostly in the apple trees. That's for me. So the blacks are done. We're moving out of the crossover. We're strictly over here in the whites. The whites grow in small groups, I told you. If you walk up on a thing half the size of this stage, and there's 200 or 300 little whites all over in there, like that big, yeah, leave them. Call me. No, leave them and come back in 2 or 3 days. If they will grow. They grow at different speeds. Went into a spot, parked, got out this old logging trail. It's a spot I've been going to for 40 years. And I go into this logging trail, then I veer off, and I go to that spot. And go, "Hey, Morels again this year, wonderful." Come back out on the trail. The next day I go home, and I go home that night, we have Morels. Hey, my wife is like, "Come on, man." So the next day we go back to the same spot because it was evening, and I know there's more Morels out there. I know it. But yeah, we'll just go back there and get another bag. We're walking into that trail, and there's white Morels. It's like 35 of them that tall. Right on the trail. 14 hours earlier, no, it's impossible. A ballet artist couldn't have made it through there. So, overnight. Now I've got a buddy who's got a place. They come up in his yard. It's really cool if they do. And some years they'll be like this, day 2, day 3, day 4. Put a Coke can over there, and they're growing slow. And it's just, something's going on. When they popped up overnight, ground temperature needs to be about 55 degrees up to 60, perfect ground temperature for growing morels. I read it, right? I never used that. But the ones that popped up quick, they had the right water temperature, the right amount of rain. It was a warm night. The ground is 55 degrees, bam, they just slam out. When they grow slow, it might be late in the season, we're not getting enough rain. Maybe we've got a lot of cool nights, they grow at night. So there's different reasons, but you will find them like this, and they'll grow they grow slow. So, so over here we find this patch of white ones, and they're really small. Go ahead and leave them, come back in 2 or 3 days, they'll grow. I find a lot of little ones. When I'm finding big ones, I throw them in the bag. I'm not going back for 2 little ones. I'm going to leave those guys and be back. They go in the bag. But when you find that white patch like that, it's a good idea. The other thing is, if you've ever found really big white ones, like big ones, they come at the end of the year. Anybody in here? Big white morels? Yeah. Late in the year? Yeah, late. June 12th. All right. Yes, they're big. I have 3 places I go to for big white morels. I go there every year, my 3 big white morel spots. I go at the very end of the season, June 12th. I go Memorial Day weekend, and so I think, yeah, we got to get out and check the bigs, and we go to those 3 spots. During the black season, nope. Crossover, nope. Even the early white season, nope. Late in the season, the big white ones come out. And you'll go, sometimes I only find 3 or 4 or 5. Sometimes I find, 50 or 60 white morels like that. And I got 3 of those spots. So check them late and often if you want the big ones. So a few years ago, I'm doing this thing. And it wasn't near as hot. I'm doing this thing, and a woman walks up right here, and she opens up an igloo cooler. Was anybody here for that? I know. Yeah, Mike. You know, I've been asking. I've never found anybody that's come to 2 of these. You know what I mean?
I've been to all of them.
I'm at home.
Hey, Tony, I got an interesting, I don't know if this is folklore or if it's real, but one of the vendors over at the carnival told me he found a dozen in the Memorial Garden this morning. And they're going to plan on putting them up there.
Yeah, that's all about 100 feet from here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where were you guys? I told you, in the morning, in the flat light. Yeah, they're up. I've got a buddy, Graham in here. I used to play in this band, we'd go through Florida. We had 2 drummers, so we left Graham, my lifelong friend I grew up with, I love the guy. We left him in Florida, and he stayed there about 20 years. He comes back up here and he buys a place overlooking Lake Charlevoix, beautiful little stone place, apple on 3 sides, apple orchard, and fixed it all up. Incredibly beautiful place. And he calls me up and he goes, dude, you gotta get out here. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, you gotta get out here. I go, I know, man, but I'm doing shit or stuff. So what? Listen, please get in your truck and drive out here. Okay. Are you okay? Yeah. Hurry. I drive out there and it's bigger than this tent. It's all, I shouldn't even. He still lives there and he owns a gun. All full of morels. It's all full of morels. It was like nuts. So, you know, choo-choo, play guitar, fry them up and eat them. The next year, about 3 or 4 years into it. There's somebody else in this room, never mind, who has a wonderful yard. Your secret's safe with me. So, Graham, he says, no, it's you're really too dry. And I go, no, it's not. And he goes, yeah, it is. You know that. I go, no, it's not too dry. He goes, nobody's finding morels, man. You know that. I go, I know, but it's not too dry at your house because you have a sprinkler. So I sprinkled. You guys sprinkle? Yeah. Over here, Mike. 321 East Drive.
1607 South End.
There you go. And he's got guns too. So be careful. I swear to you, be careful. So, watering every year, and they always come up. So if you have them in your yard, get the sprinkler going, and get it going early. My son's got a double lot, same thing. He gets up 75 to 125 beautiful whites every, I mean, they're right there. He just has, well, we're having dinner, and he goes out and picks them, gets 2 good picks out of his yard. And the thing with him is he's a real busy guy, doesn't mow his lawn every minute, you know? So his neighbor lady comes over and says, Homer, we really like you. Great neighbor. We love you, man. And we think a lot of you, but you know, you only mow your lawn like once or twice a year. And then literally sometimes before the snow's even gone, you're out here watering the hell out of your lawn. What's going on? And he says, yeah, well, in the spring, that's how you do it. You water your lawn real heavy in the spring, then you don't have to mow it as much. Oh! And he didn't tell her, but he was watering his morale. So if you got him, water him. Woman walked up to me a few years ago here, I think I already started this. I don't know. And she opened up an igloo and she had this morale in the igloo. Yeah. And the thing is, I've seen a lot of big morels, you know, and I have great morals, but the fruit on this thing, when you tipped it, you know, you tip it up and look at it, it was like that big around. I think it was 3 pounds, like a $225 morale, but huge. She found it in her lawn, right? Is the only one there, and I told her about the sprinkler system. And she found it in St. John's, Michigan. And I told her I had a picture and she gave me her address. I don't know. So I know where these grow, you know what I mean? So last year my daughter went out, I've got a bad hip, and she went out picking, she goes, hey, and I was bumming one day. Not seriously bumming, but you know, everybody wants to be in the woods. And she goes, Dad, I'll go out, you know, I'll go out to one of my spots. And she went out, it was too early. But she found this one. And the impressive part for me was, that's the only one she found. Because when you're out picking morels and you bend down to get morels, you'll see the little ones. But you can see she's fighting everything. The sun's out, the shadow chasing, the leaves are all poking up, and she found that little morel. It's in her jeans, man. You know? Alright. So we're in the white system here, and the tree we want is the ash tree, and I know that they're all dying. But do what you can with them. We used to pick around the elm trees, and Dutch elm got them, and now it's the, you know what it is. Yeah, emerald. Right. It's fun getting old. You just forget stuff. I mean, you know, I used to say that word all the time. Emerald ash borer. Okay. So we're looking for the big ash trees, the bigger the better. That ash tree's been spewing for 20 years, that one's been there 120 years, and that ground is ready to go. It's fertile, 120 years of ash in the ground. So we're gonna go to the bigger ones, the better. And I flipped back real quick to the beech and the red pine. Did I talk about those? Yeah, they'll grow anywhere. They're growing this morning at the Veterans Memorial, 100 feet from here. White ones. So you don't have to hold yourself to these trees and what I told you I'm doing, because you might have success doing other stuff, but this is what works for me. And holding on to spots. You have spots, you get them, you keep them. Many years ago, I was dating a girl, and we were living in sin, actually. And, you know, it's that thing where you're not sure, you know, wonderful girl. I love her. I'm pretty sure, but the rest of my life, you know, so you're not really for that big commitment, and you make the mistake of taking her to one of your spots, you know, seriously, and then she's got the catch and release program, so she releases you and gets married to another guy and releases him, and then he gets remarried and has a couple kids, and 10 years later it's a whole new family in my spot. You know, love does crazy things, but you don't tell anybody, they're yours. Man, I covet them. I got spots going way back. My grandfather, when I was about 9 years old, my brother was 8 years older than me, and he had a $100 Ford. This back in 1959, 1960. And my grandpa Homer, I grab his cane. It's his old cane. I bring him over. Bring Homer over. We're going to tell a Homer story. So he comes and gets my brother and I, and my brother's got the $100 Ford, and we go out. I'll tell you where we went, way out in the woods. And it was in the Chandler Hill area. And my grandpa used to log over there, and he lived over there for a while when he was young. And we get there, and he goes, right here, logging trail, off of this dirt road. It's right there, it's been there for 100 years, it's growing over. They used to run rails into the woods to get the logs. And then when they were done, they tore them out. They had these small railroad systems, and they're all over. You'll be in the woods, and you'll see a raised bed almost the size of this stage just going through the woods. It's an old logging trail. My grandpa says, pull into that one right there. We pull in, he gets out, and he goes, here's what I want you to do, boys. I want you to go over this ridge, go down the other side, turn left, go 200 paces, then go up the side of the hill on the top. All right, man. So my grandpa's 90. He hasn't been up there in 30 years. It's one of his old spots. And he's like sending us up. So we go up, my brother and I, and I remember going down the second half, I'm thinking, what are the paces? Where do we get those? I was 8 years old. That's what I remember about this thing. Paces. Grandpa said we're going to need 200 paces. My brother's like, come on. There's steps. Take steps. That's a pace. Oh, okay. I remember learning that on this. We go 200 paces, we go up the side of the hill, we go up there, and 2 brown paper bags apiece. We filled each one. I had a bag and a half, and he had a bag and a half. We had 3 bags, beautiful black morels. Came out of that spot my grandfather hadn't been to in 30 years. My dad didn't know about it. My grandpa's on the, keep in touch with the funeral home thing. He's about ready to kick it. 90 years old, can't walk, giving up a spot. Literally. We told my dad, he's like, he never told me, you know. So many years later, I'm there with my son. And he's up in his 20s, and we're up in this area, and it's morel season, and it's almost an hour drive over the Chipman area. And I'm like, all right. I pull over, it's morel season, it's black season, early. And I go, let's go, dude. And I pull out these bags. And as soon as he sees the bags, he's like, we're going picking, man, or are we going hunting? And it's two different things. When you hunt morels, you go in the woods and look for them. When you go picking, you go to your spots. I'm going picking, you know. And I go through the woods, I'm looking, but I'm going to a designated spot where I've been picking morels for 45 years. And I go there, and they're there. And if they're not, I come back in 3 days. 3 days, 3 days. So I go to my spots. I'll come in from different angles and do a little hunting. But when you're hunting, you don't know where you're going. You're just wandering through, and it's beautiful, and you're having a great time. That's what you should be doing. But you're hunting morels. So my son's like, are we going hunting or picking? I go, come on, let's go picking. And we go over the ridge, we go a couple hundred paces, we go up, and this time we both fill one full paper bag, these black morels. And so we come back to the truck. So this spans from my grandfather to my son. It's his great-grandfather's spot that I've been holding on to. And I take my son up there, and we get back to the truck, and we're both choking up, just like this. It's good stuff. I'm not sad. I think about people I love. I get emotional. So he's in the truck, and he's got his hands on his knees, and he's trying to talk, and he can't. He keeps looking at his feet, and he's doing that. And he'll look out the truck window, and I can see him just fighting it like I am right now. And good stuff, all right? And he says, Dad, and I go, yeah, man, come on, I love you. Are you okay? Is it good? And I'm getting all choked up. And the reason I'm getting choked up is I'm thinking, this might have been too early. You know, my grandpa waited till he's 90, and I'm sitting there, and I'm crying like I am, and he's over here crying, and he finally lifts up, and he turns to me, and he says, Dad, you're not going to tell the rest of the kids, are you? Yeah. So I let it, and I go, no, dude, that's yours. It came from your great-grandfather. So I've been, you know what, I've been rambling. When you get them, when you pick them with your thumb and your finger. Right? Don't pull them up by the roots. It hurts the mycelium. It'll kill the whole thing. You know, after a few years, wow, fewer and fewer. A lot of people make that mistake of pulling them up. Pluck them off. And then they decompose back down into themselves in the mycelium. Keep that big orgasm going. This is what they look like. And you can come up later if you can't see them. This one here is a morel. Visual aids. My wife is like, how much do those cost, man? I go, no, I need these. Spent 20 years without them. So this is a real morel. And I cut them lengthwise like that. I put them in water as little as I have to. I usually just spray them off with a sprayer, you know. People soak them overnight in salt. I don't know. Mysteries of the universe. I mean, what else do you soak overnight in salt before you eat it? I mean, what? Like maybe a boot or something. But don't terrorize these morels. They don't need that salt water overnight. They're good, they're fresh. People are afraid of them because they grow in the woods. Man, you're gonna eat that thing and you found it? It's weird looking. I don't want any. You know, going through the drive-thru if you need anything, you know. But these things, keep them clean. Brush them with a butter brush. Shoot them with a little bit of cold water and a colander, but keep them clean. And that's it, cut lengthwise, right? Okay, they're hollow, both in the fruit and in the stem. You see how they're hollow like that? That's the dead giveaway, not the dead giveaway. It's a good giveaway on the morel. Hollow stem, hollow body. This is the cap, or the false. And they're saying, I've eaten hundreds of pounds. Obviously, you might not want to. But I don't need them anymore. They can cause all kinds of problems for you, and everybody is going, no, they can be your friend for a long time, and then they can be in a bad mood and kill you. So don't eat those. And how do you tell these? If you look at the stem, you can come up later if you can't see, but where my 2 fingers are, that's an open stem that they cut, right? Right here. Okay, in that stem there's a white cottony substance. And the morel grows, the stem stops like where my fingers are. See that? And then the fruit's above it. So the stem grows up into the bottom of the fruit. In the false morel, the cap, the verpa, the stem grows all the way up to the top. So it's setting on it like a cap. They call them caps. It's all starting to make sense to me. So you don't want those. You want to get the real morel, and there's not a lot of morel mistakes out there. There's 38 varieties, and they'll all kill you, and they all look just like a white one, so enjoy yourself. That's not going on. But if you don't know exactly what it is, ask. But the morels, they pretty much stand on their own. You won't find anything else that looks like this. I put them on a cookie sheet. Some people freeze them. They saute them, and then all that moisture comes out, and they're in an inch of water. They cool it, put it in plastic bags, Ziploc, put it in the freezer. They got a block of ice. It's like little morels are in there swimming, you know. And then they dump it on a pan. They kind of melt all that ice. They kind of rubberize it. So what I do is I cut them in half like I showed you, and I put them on a cookie sheet. So I take those right there. They're cookie sheet ready. Put them on a cookie sheet and freeze them like blueberries. Then I dump them in a Tupperware. In the Tupperware, you burp it, put it in the freezer. It's the only time I use plastic with a morel, but it's frozen. Then when you go to eat them, you get the pan hot, you crack that top open, and you dump them out like potato chips. And you're sauteing right now. This is close to fresh as you can get. I eat them all fresh. We pick a lot of morels, we eat them. You know, 3 meals. 3 meals a day, we're doing morels. And because they're in season, I always say the peach, you have to take that bite in August, it drips down your chin, and I'll take a bushel. They're incredible. Or the peach in February that you can play tennis with. You know, eat them in August. Morels, eat them this spring. Find them, don't fool around with them. Don't dehydrate them. Ooh, have you done that?
Yes, it did work.
A lot of people dehydrate, and whatever works for you, do it. But to me, you open it up, they smell. And you take a morel that big and you dehydrate it down to that big, and then you reconstitute it and it gets that big. You know what I mean? They don't come back. You know, but when they're like this, saute them up and eat them. I had to touch real quick. I'm sorry to hold you guys up. You've been incredible in this heat, I want to tell you. So let me tell you, one of the things I preach about is kids. And going to the woods and respecting it. For starters, I'll tell you a story. I've done a lot of bad, 70 years. I've done my bad, but I've done some good things. One good thing I did one time was, at this guy's house, I go out, a farm, and I go out and pick. And it's quite a ways from here, but I found this place years ago, and I've been picking in there for maybe 30 years. I dress dark, and I'm quiet, and I don't take the dog or my family, and I go alone. And I park about a mile away, and I come through the woods, and I go over this fence that has no trespassing, survivors will be executed or something, And I go in there. It's like almost like I was joining the armed forces. Because there's 2 spots in there. And I've been going in there and picking them for years and years and years. And then I walk back out, a mile back to my truck. I'm way down there. Doing this so one year I'm coming out, and I walk out, I go over the fence, through the woods, and back to my truck, and he's there. Steps out from behind a tree. It's like, oh, he goes, I knew it. And he's mad and very angry, and I'm not, And I thought, this guy's gonna kill me, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And it turned into this. I could see him waiting for me, and I'd go, I promise, I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. And he'd stare at me and, you know what? I will never, I'm sorry. I just couldn't say it, because I'm coming back tomorrow. And I don't want to say, I'll never come back here again. And it's your own fault because you got all these morals, you know what I mean, dude? And he grabs the bag away from me. He goes, these are mine. I got this bag, it's about half full. Now we get to that part where I was good once. And he takes the bag and he says, these are mine. I go, you're more welcome to them. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Those are yours. And he opens up the bag and he stares in and he's confused. And he says, what in the hell is this? And it's a bunch of old beer cans I picked up because there weren't any morals. And he starts in on me like, this is exactly why I've posted my land. I don't want you here. And I'm on the verge. I should call the police. And I go, and then I kind of turn it and I go, dude, I want to tell you a story. I park a mile away. I sneak in there. I can't bring my dog or my family. And I have to come in there and be real quiet to get your morals. And that place is a church for me. And I get in there and it's a mess. And I'm picking up after you. You can't clean this up a little bit? And he laughed, he cracked, and he smiled at me. And I go, yeah, man, I'm not here to do any damage. He goes, I hate those morels anyway. I go, oh, okay. And we bonded. He's like, just park over by the barn. So I've got this 200 acres that's fenced in with I'll kill you if you come near. And there's a Tasmanian devil sneaking around like he can be invisible, patrolling it. I'm the only one that can go in there. And it's that I did something right, I'm passing it along. Pick it up, man. Let's clean up the woods. Make it nice for our kids. I grew up in this morale picking family. It was the greatest thing in the world for me. It's why I'm here right now. It's why, basically, I'm listening to Robin Lee Berry on the radio. And the guy says, I'm an old musician. I was drawn in by the sound of this woman's voice and this song, and I'm like, wow, what is that? Robin Lee Berry, Northern Michigan treasure. And now, and I went, whoa, I live in Northern Michigan, and it pulled me right in. And I'm thinking, I should be stalking her. So I started stalking her. I'd go to her shows. She does these little concerts, and I get there and she's incredibly beautiful. I'd only seen her on the radio, and I go, whoa, and I'm way in over my head, I'm stuttering, I got the list, and nothing makes sense, and I'm trying to introduce myself and get somewhere close to this beautiful, talented woman, and no luck. Second concert, no luck. Third concert, hi, Tom. I go, wow, first two letters. I'm making progress. And I was crushing on her hard. This whole thing goes over about a 2-month period. And then she's doing this gig and she's opening for Garnet Rogers, this Canadian folk legend. This is years ago, and she's kind of traveling the Midwest with him a little bit, opening shows. I go to see Garnet, she's opening. I didn't even know it. She walks out on the stage. I'm like, oh my God, it's Robin. Now I got to deal with this because, my brain is thinking of nothing but her. She gets done playing, she comes out, and we're dipping, cauliflower and ranch dip and wine and all that in the break. And she's standing like where that speaker is talking to somebody, and the two people I went with are here, and somebody walks up and they introduce me, and the people they introduce me go, Tony Williams, the morale picker, the champion morale picker. Whoa. Like an electromagnet. And she came right over, inappropriately pressed really right against me, I loved it, but it was like, what's going on here? And she looks up at me and says, what's this morale thing? What are you, a morale picker? Yeah, I'm the 5-time national champ, Tony, not Tom. Now we've raised 4 kids. So I met her through morale picking, When I talk about a treasure hunt, I got other stuff. Let's do some questions and answer them. What do you say? Let's move on. You guys are getting hot.
Mr. Grand Champion, before you do.
Oh.
North Dakota yesterday for a fundraiser for the Morel.
It's a fundraiser, not expensive, but
$4.
$4, North Coast Catering,
Coast catering.
and get some on your way out. But let's do some questions.
It is gluten-free also.
Do you guys mind if I eat in front of you? I'll be back in a minute. No, let's ask some questions. I know you got them, because a lot of this doesn't make sense to me.